Angela. Welcome to Power Talk.
Yay, thank you. I'm so excited.
I'm so happy to have you here. So, I was on Angela's podcast Unveiled recently, and we had the best time. I told a story there that I still haven't spoken about anywhere else, and it's a really good one. So, make sure you go to the show notes and listen to that after this episode because it was a time.
Yeah, yeah, I loved it. I was like, I don't want our conversation to end. Yeah, I love that.
So good. So we had to keep going here on Power Talk.
Yeah.
And Angela is one of my friends. She's so talented. We met because we had the same intuition mentors, Al and Allie, and we met during our training. She's so incredibly talented. And so I had to have her on because I really want to introduce my community to Angela, and what she does, I think, is so unique. Like, you are so in your genius about how you help serve moms. And I really want you to explain what clean BDE is because I'm obsessed, and tell us all the things.
You, that's so sweet. Just a little quick background is I have three children with three different baby daddies. So obviously definitely part of my soul like path to help other moms. But it wasn't easy for the first, my oldest is 19. I have a 10-year-old and then a 5-year-old. So for decades. It was very difficult. I had experienced severe domestic violence with the first relationship, and that really haunted me for a long time. And I didn't know how to heal. I tried therapy for over 10 years. They put me on medication. It was like they did everything to try to band-aid the situation, but nothing actually got to the root. And it wasn't until 2015 I almost died from black mold poisoning, which is so random.
What?
And my oldest daughter started seeing ghosts, spirits, all of these things in our house. I was like, what is happening? So that kind of led me on the spiritual path. And that's when I started learning about, several years later, unconscious reprogramming, hypnotherapy, getting to the root cause, basically. When I finally decided, okay, I'm going to heal this, and it was like it took me less than 6 months with unconscious reprogramming nervous system regulation to heal, I would say 90% of it. It was just like, wow.
That's incredible.
Yeah, it was like, where has this been? And then the missing pieces really for me were emotional mastery. So understanding how to deal with a trigger in real time. I'm a single mom when my kids are being wild and I spill coffee everywhere. And it's like just understanding how to not let your emotions get to you. Or if I do experience a trigger, knowing what actually triggers that and how to calm down in real time. And then, of course, the energetics and all of that. Those four pillars have been so key. So once I dialed that in, I launched Clean BDE in December 2023. Stands for Clean Baby Daddy Energy.
So good.
Felt like I had finally reached that, and it wasn't easy. I had gone through very difficult situations with each three of them, very different situations, but all difficult. So I felt like, okay, I can really relate to any mom who's been through any of these things, like legal battles and domestic violence and, dealing with someone who has addiction issues, like all of those things. And so I had my first round of ladies come into Clean BDE in December 2023. And I knew it worked for me. And I was just praying. I was like, okay, this has to work for them. And it did. And they're still in my world in different programs. And they still use the program. If they ever have even a tiny trigger issue, they know exactly where to go and just get that dialed in. So
That's so powerful. I love that so much. For women hearing you going, I have that relationship with my ex or something similar, and it doesn't even need to be, obviously, everyone has their level 10 severity, right? And that might be different from another woman where it's like, I just even, which this isn't, I don't want to minimize this, but just even having to speak to this person, like there's not maybe physical violence, but just, I don't even want this person in my life, but we are tied together forever because we have a child. How have you seen this work where it was a really, your day-to-day life was really not going well? And has that, the tools, changed the relationship with your children's fathers where it's actually something that it doesn't bother you every single day?
oh yeah. I mean, my oldest, he used to send me a text and it wouldn't even be threatening or anything before I healed. And my whole body would just react because I was so my nervous system was just like wild, and it still just triggered me even thinking about him. And then I would have like nightmares about him, like some of the situations that happened, and I would just replay them over and over again. After I healed, I was inviting him to my house for like her birthday parties and like all of these things. And
Come
if I
on over.
like, it's so funny. I'll give him a hug if I run into him, like, at the store or something. Like, I have no issue, and knowing all of the, like, source truth about there's no negatives, like, there's an equal amount of positives and negatives to everything, and I looked at the fair exchange of our relationships and, like, what I learned, all of that. My second baby daddy, he and I had went through a horrific legal battle, and we were, like, very, I would say, like, enemies at one point. Now he and I are good friends. Like, if I go meet him to get my daughter, he'll buy me and my son, who's not his, like, lunch. He and I just get along really well. We'll chat on the phone about things. And then my third is a little different. I don't have any trauma or triggers with him. He's just not really involved. He's not around, so I don't really have to deal with him. But when he would send the random text or something, I noticed I would get triggered, and so I started leaning into it, and I would just, like, lean into the trigger of the text, figure out why, and just kinda break that down until it just didn't become triggering anymore. So, yeah, I was able to completely turn around my relationships and, like, how I viewed everything with the
Right, and
yeah.
that changed how they were being towards you, correct?
Yes, 100%.
Isn't that wild? So changing your electromagnetic field,
Yeah,
you did all the work and it resulted in them acting out the script that you put in, the new script that you put in. So
yeah,
you didn't have to sit down with them and couples counseling or family counseling or any of the things.
no.
Just you changing yourself changed the relationships with these men that at one point you thought there's no way. There's like this will be the rest of my life.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, I mean, we never had to sit down. It was just like, yeah, me changing myself just changed the dynamic, so
Ugh, it's so magical. I love this work so much.
I know, it
It's
really
just
is. Yeah.
It's so, so cool.
Mhm.
So, what is a first step that women going through something similar, no matter where that is with them, again, if it's just even them getting a text and every part of their body, they go into fight or flight or freeze, that survival mode. What is a first step that women can do to really start shifting this in themselves? And then, as you know, it's not you're not trying to do it for the results of, okay, then if I do this, then he'll be different. You're doing it for yourself first, and then as a result, it happens. I think a lot of people get tied up in that, like, okay, well, let me just do this, and then we'll see if it worked. And it's not going to work that way. But what's something that they can start with today to really start making that change?
Yeah, so first, what I would suggest is if they're still getting triggered, their nervous system is probably needing some work. So for me, when the mothers come in, I first get them into a regulated state because otherwise, what I noticed is if I'm trying to explain like universal energetic laws, like they want to listen, but their nervous system is just so like haywire, they don't really take it in and they're not really present enough. So like getting the nervous system dialed in, not reacting. So that was huge for me is if I saw a text from my ex, it wouldn't even be like once I took time to just kind of sit with it before responding and look at it again, it wasn't even like anything big. It was just like a simple text, but because your body is so conditioned to that response, you have to dial in your nervous system. So making sure to not like respond right away, like take time, get back in your body. And like I even say, just look at, what's around you in the room, like anything you could do to bring you back to the present, then read it again and just try to read it from a scientific perspective. Like if someone else was reading it, would they think it's like threatening or super negative? Because when I started doing that, I was like, he's literally just asking to see our child. Like, am I
Yeah.
taking anything? Like, or hey, do you have this at your house? It was just like because we get so conditioned to those arguments and like battle, it takes time to kind of like not look at him like the enemy, but just like as the co-parent and now friend. So
And
that's
put your weapons down, like you're able to put your weapons down
yeah,
finally.
yeah, exactly. And like it does take some like conscious effort, but just getting yourself back into your body and like knowing you're not threatened. Like I would also just say like, I'm safe, I'm safe, I'm safe, and just like calming down. And then it just became the new norm slowly that like that was the response, like just calm.
Yeah. Is there a nervous system regulation tool that you obviously, I know your programs are full of them, but something like a breathing sort of pattern or anything that when that first step that someone can take from this podcast today and start with that. And then, of course, they can dive in deep with you and get the whole thing.
Yeah, definitely. My favorite one is you would just be looking straight ahead, and then you would notice without moving your eyes anything that you can see on the left and anything you can see on the right. That tells your unconscious that you're safe because, like, you know this, but when when we feel triggered, we get tunnel vision. So it's like,
Totally.
and so when you do that, it tells your unconscious, okay, we're safe. Just like I like to explain it, like a bunny who's being chased by a fox, they are just focused on survival, on living. They are not noticing like all the carrots on the right. They're not noticing like this little nice place to go lay down and rest. They are just focused on survival. So when we can open up our vision, just that simple thing like calms me down every single time. So
Yeah, and for those listening, she's actually using therapy on us as we're talking with the example of the bunny and everything that actually speaks to your subconscious and the way that she's trained to do that, where it is going to allow you. So if you need to rewind and listen to that again, it will tell your mind exactly what you need to do in those moments of using that type of therapy that shows the mind in that very animalistic way because there's part of our nervous system it's very ancient, it's very primal, so when we're able to relate it to animals in that way, she actually just like undid something for you.
yeah, exactly.
So yeah, which is
I
incredible. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. And I use a lot of animal metaphors, just like you said, because when we can see it in that way, it's like it just makes more sense and it speaks to our unconscious because then
Mhm.
people are visualizing the bunny and the fox and it just like, yeah, it clicks. So I'm always using like stories and metaphors. And so they're sometimes they'll be wondering, like, what is she talking about? Animals like all the time, but it's for a specific reason because it's like multi-level communication. So
That's what I say on Power Talk too. I'm like, just stick with me. Like, you might not know where I'm going, but I know where we're going.
yeah,
And I'm painting pictures in your mind right now that just trust the process and I will get you to where we need to go.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, there's a method to our madness.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's what I love about you too. We both have studied the mind for so many years
yeah.
and really know how it works to get those results. So it's cool because it's not on the client. Like of course, the client has to do the work, but like trust the tools that you are given are exactly what you need and trust that we know what we're doing, even when you're like, that was weird of you to say.
Yeah. Yeah.
Was random.
Yeah, I love it. And yeah, it worked so well on me. I was like, whoa. I just remember one day, I think it was after like 6 months of studying RRT and all of that. I was like, I woke up one day and just a fog had lifted, like so much had cleared. And I'd been feeling little shifts, but one day it was just like so clear. And it's from just those kind of metaphors and just speaking to both unconscious and conscious mind. So
Yeah, yeah. And emotional mastery is so important. That's something I teach in my emotions layer process and It Girl, but I know you teach that in your programs because, and I'm sure, we have our own exact methods, but I don't think that people understand how essential it is. And it's something that I'm trying to really dial into my community is like, it's not the sexiest thing to learn. It isn't. Like, everyone wants to know they're like, how do I manifest the man? How do I manifest the money? How do I manifest the house? Like, I get that. And that's how you get those things. That's what is just not understood is that it's those day to day moments, the little moments that make up your life are what make up your life. It's not the big things. And that's something I teach my clients when you're pointing out evidence to program something into your subconscious and into your electromagnetic field. It's the small moments because I always use this example, but it's like, Justin Bieber or whoever, like you think is so filthy rich. What makes Justin Bieber rich in his daily life? Is it him the second he drops an album? Or is it literally those tiny moments throughout his life where it's like he's out of cereal, he just has it sent to the house, or someone runs and gets it, or whatever. It's those tiny little moments that make up his life that show him he's rich. It's not just the day he drops an album or makes the best song ever. Those are a result of the tiny moments that make up his life. So knowing in each of those moments when you get the text from your ex or something doesn't go the way that you wanted it to go, who are you in those small moments? That I promise you is the key to the house, to the man, to the money, all the things. And that's what's difficult is because obviously part of what we do, it's like you do have to market in some way so that you can speak to the woman who you can help change her whole freaking life. But it's like she's not going to be pulled to you going, you need emotional mastery. She's like, I don't really care. I
Yeah.
don't care. And that's what's difficult is understanding like it's not the sexiest thing, but it is really, really hot when your whole life looks exactly the way that you want it. And you're full of peace and power every day of your life because you have exactly the tools in those moments when those things happen, because that's what a life is made up of. It is the small moments. It's not just the big thing on your calendar. It's like getting in the car, going from here to there. It's the talking to your friends, your family, all of that. And so knowing how to be the it girl in those moments of knowing exactly how to basically create the life you want to be living because you're aware of each moment is your electromagnetic field reflecting something back to you.
Yeah. Totally. And if they're mothers, and as you know, like children 7 and younger are reflections of us. And
Oh
it's,
yeah, talk about this. I've never really talked about this on the podcast.
yeah, I heard you. It's so funny. You were talking about reflections. I listened to your podcast yesterday and I had just released one too. I feel like we're always on like the same brain. Like you
Same
really,
wavelengths.
yeah, same wavelength. Like you released an emotion mastery one, and I did too that week. I was like, how funny we like keep saying the same things, but in different, formats. So my son is 5, and he had severe ADHD. Like when I took him to the Amen Clinic, which is pretty known, well known for using natural ways to help with ADHD sensations, all of that. He was literally biting me, punching me, kicking me in the doctor's office, and the doctor was like, maybe we need to put him on medication. And she had just told me like it's only for rare cases. And I was like, I was just very against, I knew I could resolve it naturally. So I was like,
Mhm,
no, I was
mhm.
very resistant to medication. And then um I had a session with Al a couple of months ago where he, looked in and he's like, he's only 11% ADHD. It's all you. And he's like,
You're like, ouch.
yeah. He's like, you're beating yourself up in these 3 areas of life. And when you start shifting that, his behavior will shift. Told me to give him 37 minutes of undivided attention a day where he just gets to do whatever he wants to do. And I'm there and present. His behavior shifted within 2 weeks. Like
Oh my goodness.
I had to have like principal meetings, teach, and he's 5, he's in TK. So it's like he's still a little kid. His behavior shifted. His teacher was like, "What changed?" She was like shocked. And even my parents were like, "What have you been doing?" And I even stopped giving him the natural supplements he was on. And it's just amazing because if he has any kind of defiance, or like last night, he did punch me. And I immediately say, like, I created this and like I don't take it out on him. And this is like a whole new paradigm of parenting, basically, is understanding. And if I didn't have my emotional mastery dialed in, I would be like, don't punch me, go to your room, which is what most parents are taught to do, and they just naturally do. I just sit there and I regulate myself, and I'm like working, okay, where am I beating myself up? And I'm like trying to shift it immediately. And then all of a sudden he just like gave me a hug, and it was just like it was shifted. So,
Oh.
like it's a totally different way of parenting when you have the knowledge of how all of this works and how kids are reflections from 7 and below. So
Yeah, I'm so interested because I'm not a mom. How do you balance that with going, okay, this is my reflection? And for the listeners, if you're not sure what a reflection is, it's reflecting back from your manifestation field what's in there. So all people, circumstances, events, situations are going to reflect what's in your manifestation field. And so children 7 years and younger are reflecting back to you. It's not their own reflection. They're reflecting back to you as a parent. And that's something that's really hard to stomach and can be really confronting. So if you're triggered by it now, like that just means that there's places to heal and marinate on it. Like you don't need to adopt it today. But how do you toe that line of like, okay, he's reflecting, my son is reflecting back to me. However, I don't want my son to grow up and be an asshole, and he needs to know he can't punch me and others. So where do I discipline and where is that my own thing? Like, how do you handle that?
Yeah, it is a really fine line, and, like, my parents, they don't understand all of this, so they just think I'm doing gentle parenting, and they're so old school, they're like, "I don't know, about this gentle parenting." I'm like, I just kinda listen, but it's not worth arguing about. So, like, last night, for example, he hadn't had an issue in so long, and last night he did punch me, and so I said, let's talk about what's going on. And then he continued to be defiant. So I said, okay, we're going to go to the timeout chair and just talk about this. And so I said, you're going to sit here until we calm down. Like, let's take some breaths. And if you want to calm down, like, we can go, do something together. And I just kind of talked to him. And at first, it was really hard because he used to throw things at me. And I would just have to, like, say, okay, you can have your time, but you're not going to hurt me or yourself. So I just have to make sure you're not hurting my body or your body. And I would just say, you can stay in your room until you're ready to, like, calm down and come talk to me. And that always worked pretty well. Or just sitting with him in the timeout chair, like, it's not fun, but it's like I just tell him, like, he'll say, if he says something mean, like, last night he said he wanted burgers for dinner, and he must have learned this at school because it's not something I ever say, but he was like, "I don't want your nasty burger." And it was really hard to not laugh, but I was like, "Okay, let's talk about this." And
Kids are so incredible what comes out of their mouth, and, like, they will humble you so quick,
yeah.
so quick, and it's, like, hard not to laugh because you're like, "Oh," and also how reflective they are in that moment where you're like, "Oh, thank you," like, it's such a gift in the moment, but you're also like, "My human is, like, ouchie," and also it's hilarious.
Yes. Yeah, it is. It's like, and I'm sure Source designed it where they're only reflective until age 7 because punches after age 7 could start to hurt. Whereas it's like
Oh,
his
absolutely.
right now, like, barely register, on my body. But I do teach him, like, and the whole way down to school in the mornings, we talk about, like, we don't touch other people's bodies. What happens if someone, does something to you? You go tell the teacher. Like, so we're always having these conversations. I did teach him this thing that I created called the superhero pause because he's really like, he loves superheroes. So I say, okay, superhero pause, and he knows to take a deep breath, and then I say, what are you feeling? And he names his emotions or just one emotion. I say, okay, like, why do you think you're feeling like that? And he'll explain it. And I'll say, what can we do about it? And so then he's already thinking about solutions. And
Wait, Angela, that is incredible. I have chills through my whole body. That is
oh,
so genius.
thank you. Yeah, it's just like came to me one day and I was like, but he told me this morning he thinks superhero pause is a stupid name. So he just wants to say the pause. So I'm
The
like, oh,
pause,
that's fine.
iconic.
So just like, I don't know. It's just kind of like listening to my intuition in the moment because, yeah, I'm not gonna let him, like, be hitting me. So I make sure he's contained and he's not, like, hurting me, hurting himself, and I'm just calm because they regulate, with you. So if I'm regulating and breathing, he naturally just starts doing that too.
And that's really cool what you just said. Like the source perspective, truly, I'm not a mom, but from source information, parenting is like really they are modeling after you. Like their mirror neurons are watching you like crazy in those ages 0 to 7. They're sponges. So those mirror neurons are literally looking to see what mom's doing, and I'm copying mom, I'm copying mom. So that's the best thing you can do in those moments is be regulating yourself. And that's why this works so well is because then they're looking, okay, mom's doing this, I'll start doing this. Even though we think like we have to say the right thing all the time, it really is about who you are being in front of your child.
Yeah, totally. And then, like, if he says, like, I hate you, or something like that, I don't react. Whereas with my oldest, I would have definitely reacted because I didn't have this information. So I wasn't perfect with this. This is all very, like, kind of new. And luckily he
Yeah.
and my middle daughter are getting this, but my oldest didn't. So I paid for her to go to therapy. But I'll just say, like, that's okay. You can tell me how you're feeling. I love you no matter what. And I just always reaffirm that to him, that I love him no matter what. And I don't call him good or bad. This is another thing, is like, because I had to do so much reprogramming around, like, good girl, bad girl things. And I say,
Same.
yeah, yeah. And it's like, he said something this morning about I need to be good today. And I said, you're always good. You have a good heart. Your heart is always like good and, pure. I said, sometimes we just need to make like, we call them green light decisions, which means like helpful and like loving. And then red light decisions are things that would be like, let's not do that.
I
So
love that so much. It's something I've really been marinating on, and I'm nowhere near having a child. But when I was creating It Girl as well, there's a whole module about rewiring good girl programming because it's so ingrained in us, like every woman I've ever worked with.
yeah.
So this is something that's so key. And I've been thinking about like, how do you do that? Because I do that with my cats too. I'm like, good boy, good girl, you know?
Yeah.
It's so ingrained in how we do things. So, how do you get them to obviously you need to still parent and show them how to be in the world and but changing that wording, like the labeling of the good girl, bad girl situation to something like you just said about the red light, green light situation, or that's a powerful thing to do instead
Yeah.
of saying like that's a bad thing to do or a good thing to do. Like that's really powerful, or, using different words, something I've been marinating on how I would do that. And also, obviously, I don't parent my niece and nephew, but it's something as an auntie and I'm very involved in their life. I want to make sure I'm doing the right thing to really help them have these tools and not have all this. I mean, we're all going to have our own stuff. That's how our souls are set up, that we need to learn all these lessons. So there's never going to be like they're perfect, but how can we do the best where they don't have to undo all of this programming that's wired into them that's really keeping them from creating the life that they want to when they're older?
Yeah, no, totally. And with my 10-year-old, sometimes she's a really very sensitive, sweet girl, and she's going through some issues at school where she's being left out. So I talk to her about reflections. But then at school, sometimes she'll get a bad grade or something, or her report card is average instead of above average. And I said, you know what? I don't care about any test that you bring home. Like all I care about is that you're trying, you're doing your best, and like you were such a sweet. And I just like tell her all the things I love about her. And so she knows like I do not value her based on testing or like anything like that. I said, don't let anybody tell you, you're good or bad or anything like that. So she understands, as a 10-year-old, I'm hoping she won't have to deal with that. So
Yeah, that is so beautiful. And that's something that comes up in my hypnotherapy sessions all the time. I can't tell you how many times we go back to the classroom where a teacher said something or a classmate, it's usually the teacher, which is wild, that made them feel stupid or less than or isolated or alone because of whatever they were doing in the class. And it can be, I remember one specifically with a client, the scene that she went back to was like her subconscious bringing her back, and that was part of the root cause of a problem in her life. But she was there basically in science class or whatever subject it was, and she, you're told to sit there and not move for so long, like we're children being like forced to sit in these
yeah,
rooms for so long, like almost caged, and she was doing something else just like at her desk, like entertaining herself basically because she wasn't interested in science. And like we're so set up to have to be the best at all these subjects that our souls are not going to be the best at every single subject. It's so infuriating. Like I thought I was so dumb with math. Like I remember being in pre-calc and also like physics, which is funny because I love quantum physics now, but I felt like an idiot and I had to have a tutor because I'm like, I don't know what's going on, but I soared in English and psychology and creativity, like all art and all that. Our school systems are just so backwards where we're told that we're stupid basically if we're not the best at every single thing, which it's impossible to be. And so she was sitting there entertaining herself because she's not interested in science or whatever, and the teacher just completely mortified and humiliated her in front of everyone else because she was just drawing on her notebook. That was all she was doing, and it's just so incredible. And then that is wired in, and it's something that we have to undo later and be like, no, that was actually really effed up for that teacher to do that to me in that moment, and that really was nothing to do with my brilliance or genius whatsoever.
yeah. No, totally. I mean, my daughter just called me yesterday and said, my 10-year-old, she said, Mom, my teacher, she's like, I've never been in trouble at school. And he sent me outside of the room today. He told me to leave the room. And I said, Oh, what happened? And she said, Oh, I was talking because she does talk a lot. I was talking. I didn't hear him say not to talk. And he said, You may leave the room now. And she said, I went out there and I just cried. And she's like, But I know he was having one of those days. It was him. And so I was so glad she did not internalize that as her.
Good.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's so incredible. Your children are, I just love the way that you are bringing them up and how they have these tools already. And Angela shared with me, her children are so intuitive already. So it's really cool that you're a trained intuitive, really showing them different tools so that they're not so scared of their intuition. And it's a gift that they'll be able to use when they're ready to.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, my oldest, she and I had gone to in Marin County, we went to this spiritual intuition school, energy healing, and she was like brilliant. I mean, she can see demons, ghosts, anything, just like they're in the room. But then when she turned 13, she shut it off. And I think I've told you this. But sometimes she'll call me and she'll tell me, like, Mom, I saw a demon last night and stuff. But anytime I try to bring up this stuff, she's like, no, no, I don't want to hear about it. So I'm hoping she'll
She's
turn.
not ready.
Yeah. Later.
One day she'll be ready.
Yeah,
But I mean, I understand. Like being a teenager is enough. Like you don't need to be seeing demons in your classroom. You know what I mean?
totally.
So I get that. Another thing that you talked about for a second, and I want to bring it back because I know that mom guilt is such a thing. And of course, these humans are like part of your heart. So of course, even if you're with them 24/7 and you're the best super mom, you still feel that guilt of like, am I doing enough or am I with them enough or am I working too much? Like we hear this all the time. And I really wanted to talk about something that you said is that you knew the exact channel time of how much you need to be with your child. And that's something I actually did for one of my mentorship clients. And it's been so cool because the cool thing about being an intuitive is like, I don't need to be a mom because I'm channeling the information. It's not my information. So I don't need to know how to parent. I can just channel from your higher self the best way to parent in that situation. And for her, it was something that she was speaking to me going, I could just tell she was very much starting to beat herself up, even though she knew she was an incredible mom, but still, like, she has all these goals and aspiration with her business and what she does. And that's incredible. And you get to do that. But she was kind of like, okay, this time doing my business takes me away from my child. And then, of course, those feelings come up of the guilt and the shame and how do I be in two places at once? And it's impossible and blah, blah, blah. And just being self-critical, which being self-critical, as you know, just is the worst thing you can do because then it forms into excess weight and illness and all these things that are just not a fun time, or your son punching you
Yep.
physically. So that's not a good time. So what I did is I channeled the exact amount of minutes per day, and this will shift and change as you go throughout. That number might change with what the child needs at different times, but it's such a small number compared to what you think. You would think it's hours and hours. It's not. And I believe hers, it was around like the 40-minute mark. And then her husband's time, I went and channeled that as well. His was like, I think it was, 27 minutes or even way less. And it,
Yeah.
it doesn't mean that you go like, see ya, I just spend less than an hour with you, but that just means that present time of
Yep.
no phones, no TV, whatever, of just me and you being present with the child and not having the distractions and having those minutes, as long as those minutes are, you say it's 37 minutes, you're with your child for that 37 minutes, just being so present, me and you, this is our time. Then you can be working and be in the room with them and everything the rest of the time. And they have gotten what they needed. And they just are soothed and happy to know, like, oh, mom's in the room with me, but they don't need the present, 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 present with you. So
Yep.
that I think is the coolest thing ever because that is doable for you to be like, okay, 37 minutes, or even if it's, an hour and 30, but I do this and it doesn't have to be all at once, it can be broken up. And then you're good. And you know that you don't have to be guilty with, okay, I need to be on emails right now when he's playing with his toys or whatever it is. So that I think is so special.
Yeah, no, I mean, that has been a life changer, and he looks forward to it. Like, so when I get to the house, he'll be like, "Okay, are you ready for 37 minutes?" Like he doesn't know what 37 minutes means, but he knows it means us time. And so
Wait,
I
was 37 your minutes?
yeah,
Oh,
37.
okay. You must have told me that earlier because I was
No,
like,
I was like,
whether it's 37 minutes.
I know, I was like, "Did I say it?" Wow, she picked up on that.
You probably did say it and I just remembered it.
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, he looks forward to it. I set my timer. It's just what's funny is I told Megan and Al, I was like, all he wants to do right now during those 37 minutes is play Roblox. Like, is that okay? And I'm like, he wants to play these like zombie games. And they were like, yep, just if that's what he wants to do, like talk to him, ask him questions. So I literally just will be like, oh, why'd you choose that weapon? Like, why are you in that costume or whatever it is? Like, I don't really know. And so that's just what he wants to do for that time right now, and I'm hoping in the summer when it's warmer, like, it'll just be outside time or something, but that's what he wants to do, so that's what I'm doing, and, yeah, it's made just a world of difference, so
I love that. It's just so doable because I think we often overestimate what needs to be done and we make it this big thing and then it's really overwhelming and like this mountain we can't climb. And when you just break it down like that in this instance or anything that's going on with your business, just break it down into what you can do each day. And it's usually such a small amount of time. Like for me, I've channeled with napping and I used to be like all or nothing girl where it's like, well, if I don't have an hour and a half where I can nap, then like I'm not doing it. But for me, it's been so interesting to know that it can be around 23 minutes and I don't even need to fully be asleep. I just need to be in that relaxing. And then I got what I needed to recharge. And when I tell you, I can be at the point of like, I am hitting a wall. There's no point of return. Like, I am done for the day. And I can turn it around with that 23 minutes of closing my eyes and just allowing myself to rest. And if I fall asleep, great. If not, great. And it's just beyond so bizarre how much we think something takes and how it really is so much more doable. You will feel like a superhero when you crack these codes to
yeah.
exactly what your higher self says to do. It might sound crazy and you do it and you're like, oh, wow, I really wish I would have started doing this a very long time ago.
Yeah. No, and it's like, I think this just this hustle culture kind of thing is just like, oh, nope, I got to get this done. A nap isn't going to create an ROI, but it can actually be like the best ROI sometimes when you're, just really needing that. Your higher self wants you to just rest for a little while.
So, so much. Okay, something I wanted to come back to that we you touched on earlier that I think in the beginning of the episode people would be like these women are insane. So now maybe we're at a better spot and my community gets it. The girls that get it, but I just anyone that's new here, maybe the episode maybe not the best to start at because it is a lot. It can be so confronting to be like, wait, what? So I
Yeah.
wanted you to talk about with your baby daddies, how our souls actually contracted to have those children with those men. And so how their souls actually probably love you the most, not like humans level, but soul level for them being that reflective to you because it's actually helping you get the most soul growth. So even though your human is like, he's such a dickhead, like da 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 da, da, on a soul level, he's actually doing so much for you with what you came here to do. Can you speak on that a little bit?
Oh, yeah. My oldest daughter's father, he was the one who it was probably the most painful in many ways. Now I see him, I've done like past life regressions, and he and I have had so many lives together. And I know on a soul level, he deeply loves me. And I can see it right now because I'm spiritual. I have love for him, even though all the things that happened, it's like I have love for him. And so that is like such a different way of thinking.
Mhm. And this is the one that was physically abusive, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very severely physically abusive, and knowing that just helped, like, okay, on this human level, yeah, we could look at the things he did as bad or whatever, but it's like on a soul level, he was literally helping me on my soul path with all of these things. Our daughter was 100% meant to come in. Like when I was pregnant with her, she like chose her own name. Like one day I was pregnant and I was like, oh, her name's going to be Nikayla, which is such a random name I'd never heard of. And and so it was just like everything just made so much sense. And then, for example, my one of my other exes, he was making really irresponsible choices. And Al told me during our analysis, because we did like a soul contract analysis with him and our
Yeah.
child.
By the way, Al is one of our intuition mentors. I can't remember if we said that or not.
Keep saying Al.
You were like, Al. We love Al.
Love Al. So he said he was reflecting to me, and this is really interesting. And this is how like how amazing information you can get when you have intuition like we do. He said, because I had a program from age 16 that I picked up from my mom that I was irresponsible with money. And I had been so hard on myself for so long about you're irresponsible with money. So he was just reflecting the acts of being irresponsible, showing me. I didn't know that at the time, but like now it makes total sense. Like, oh, okay, like it literally, their behavior has nothing to do with them. It's like our reflection. And that
Mhm.
I would have been so triggered by, like, 15 years ago if someone had told me that. But now that I can see it, I'm like, oh my gosh, he was just reflecting to me, and
Mhm.
he was a 2 out of 4, which I don't know if you've talked about on your podcast, but
I can't remember either. It's definitely an ick activation, but I'm not
oh,
sure.
okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
So he's like, we're supposed to be with these like 2 out of 4s and learn from them and move to 3 out of 4 and then 4 out of 4 soulmate and then soul complement. But we don't need to get into that today. But uh,
Another episode.
yeah. But he said like he was a 2 out of 4, just so you know, it was specifically to learn for you to like wake up. And so that's what some relationships are, is just for you to learn something and then move on. Like not all
Mhm.
relationships are meant to be forever. And so
Mhm.
that's just another thing I think society has like messed up with, is like we'll meet someone, they're literally meant to teach us something, and then we're trying to stay with them and make it work, and instead of just moving on when the class.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people don't realize they compare themselves to maybe people that were college sweethearts or high school sweethearts or whatever, and they're like, they just got it right away, and da 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 da. And it's like, why did that happen for them and not for me? It's because most likely your soul had a lot of growth in your plan, which is amazing. And it's often that maybe those relationships, they're a younger soul, meaning they're not growing at the it's hard to explain because it's not better or worse, but they're not growing in the way that you are. So take it as a really great indication. And that probably means that often too, like high school sweethearts, college sweethearts, not always, but often those are those 2 out of 4s or 1 out of 4. And then they're not with that ultimate best match. And so just keep in mind, if that is you frustrated, that means that you get to have this amazing, once you have the soul growth, you get to have that 4 out of 4, which your match is just not comparable to a 1 out of 4 or 2 out of 4 or a 3 out of 4, where they understand you in ways like they understand your soul in ways that the other ones wouldn't. So when you find yourself comparing, it's just because of what your soul has planned for you in that way. And if it didn't happen really quick like that and easy, it's actually a really great sign, in my opinion. And trust me, their souls are having them, whether it's financially or in their career or in their body image or whatever, they're doing their own work and they're going in their own way. So everyone has their own thing. But I think that's really important to know and to see and help reframe. Okay, I went through the worst time with my ex. And now I'm maybe connected to this person always because we have a child, but really seeing that that was a soul plan situation, or it wouldn't have happened. Like you wouldn't have had a child with someone if it wasn't in your soul plan. So knowing that, I think, takes a lot of that high emotion. And I wish this would have gone differently. I could see it like it should have gone this way, and that I should have done this or it should have gone this way. I think really, really, really holds people up.
Yeah. No, totally. And just it kind of relieves some of the mom guilt of like, I should have stayed with the father. I should have made it work. And when you know it was a 2 out of 4 and you were just meant to learn something, it just dissolves that guilt too. So,
Yeah, yeah. There's a difference too. Don't ever stay with someone that's physically abusive or anything. It's not like, oh, you should just stay with them then and get all that growth and whatever. But it's seeing that there's a better match for you and we get to take all the lessons from here. And then also when you shift everything, like how you were saying that your ex was being really irresponsible, and then you realize, oh, I need to prove and program in that I'm responsible with money. It doesn't necessarily mean that he stops being irresponsible, although maybe it did, and I don't know. But you just wouldn't hear about it anymore, and it would no longer affect you in your life. It wouldn't ripple into your life anymore.
exactly. Yeah, a couple of the ladies that were in the first round of Clean BDE, one of them now, when she came in, like she was in a severely abusive relationship too. And now he like comes over and does laundry. Like when she shifted, he shifted. And then,
Yeah.
another one, they're like, she came in thinking he was the biggest narcissist, jerk, abuser, and now like, they're resolving their divorce and custody with each other. They actually said, let's just leave the attorneys, like they can write it all up, but let's just like resolve it together. That's what I want to do. I don't want, there's such an issue happening right now online where there's these women coaches who I think mean well, but they're like, let's just hate on all the narcissists and like let's just label them and put all the blame on them. And not that, what you experienced wasn't valid, but by doing that, you're giving away your power. So like
Mhm.
she was one of them who had came in, had been in all of those narcissistic abuse groups. Now she's like, he's totally a different person. She's like, I know it's because I shifted. It's
Yeah.
kind of wild, but it is just so amazing.
Yeah. And when you say he's a narcissist and I had nothing to do with how he treated me or how he is to me, then you're putting in your field, I am powerless. I have no power over this. And then more situations have to occur where you feel powerless and you have no power over the situations occurring in your life and the way that the relationships are and his behavior. So it's definitely a mind fuck, but
Yeah.
it really gives you all your power back. And when you're going, it's his fault, he sucks, da 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 da, it doesn't hurt him, it just hurts you. So that's the thing is like, let's as women get our power back and realize we have so much power over the situation. And again, you aren't responsible for how he lives his life and da 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 da. But when you shift it yourself and go, no, I have the power, then he either stops the behavior, like you were just saying, like the behavior completely shifted, or he's still doing his thing, but it's kind of like removed from you that you're not a match to hearing about it or having it affect your life anymore in the detrimental way that it was. You just
Yeah.
aren't triggered by it.
Yeah. 100%.
Yeah. And I actually had a client who's been in the membership for like 3 years now. And she came to me, when she got in the membership and it had a very narcissistic situation as well. And she's been doing the work in the membership reprogramming for years now. And her whole situation, it's just really cool to see in the beginning. And now she actually just did the Power Up Accelerator with me too. And there is still some work that we've been doing to completely shift that, like the final pieces of that, of like, yeah, he's a dickhead, but in doing that whole thing. But it's really cool because in that time she was in legal things, the whole situation, and she came out of the situation with a lot of money, with a really amazing, clean, if you will, clean BDE start. And so that's really cool. But I wanted you to really explain more about what is in your offers for women that are like, Angela, let's do this. Let's go. I know you have the X Detox and Clean BDE. So can you just talk more about what's in that and so that they know exactly where to go?
Yeah. So clean BDE is approximately, I mean, you can do it at your own pace, but I like to say it's like 6 weeks. I have had someone do it a lot faster, but I start out, I have the 4 pillars. So the first pillar is the nervous system regulation. That's the first part, getting regulated. That's the first week. And then we have the unconscious reprogramming. So a lot of reprogramming childhood stuff, a lot of guilt, shame, um, anger, fear, all of these things that are just like useless and like take our power away. Reprogramming all of that. Then I move into the emotional mastery. And so I'm sharing in the audio. So it's an instant access audio program with 3 check-ins. So I like to like track in the beginning, what's your biggest goal? In the middle, how's it going? And then at the end, just to make sure they're supported because
So
it
they
is,
get check-ins with you.
yeah.
Oh my God, incredible.
Yeah, because it's like it is such a sensitive topic that I don't want them to just like be out on their own. They're just
Mhm.
like little mini check-ins, but still I want them to feel supported. So then we go into the emotional mastery, and then finally into the energetics. And that's where I kind of talk about all of this that we've talked about because I feel like that is more digestible once they're like reprogrammed and like
Totally.
regulated. Yeah. So
That's why I was saying with this podcast, I'm like,
I know.
whoever's listening, just marinate on it.
Yeah.
But that's incredible. And I know you go so much deeper. Like we only skimmed the surface in this episode.
Yeah, I go a lot deeper and it's like you can take as long as you want. There's no you have it for life. It's like and like I said, some of the women that went through it December 2023, they'll like message me, "Oh, I was feeling, some emotional stuff, so I went back through the emotional mastery piece." It's all broken out by pillar and by topic, so you can just really dial that in. There's also neutral clearings where you can just listen to it for anything. There are other topics like if you're going through divorce or custody battle, there are audios on that, like how to prepare, all of that. Um, so it's a pretty comprehensive program, and so that's Clean BDE. And then the X Detox Masterclass is a brand new masterclass, and it's just kind of the an introduction to the four pillars that I do in all of my programs, the four ones I just mentioned. So it's like a little bit of sharing about how to use nervous system regulation and detoxing your ex, basically. And then there's a tool for each of the pillars, just like one tool. Then there's also a cord cutting energetic clearing because that is so key. Like, you know this, but 100% of people have cord issues with their exes. Like cords don't expire. You have to like literally cut them. So there's also that. So it's a good way if you're just interested. It's $47. And so
Oh
it's like,
my goodness.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's like
No
way,
brainer.
yeah. So it's just like an introduction to the four pillars, a little bit more, and then a tool for each of those pillars. So
Wow. Incredible. Incredible. So I'll leave that in the show notes so people can get in right now and get started with that. Thank you so much for doing this. I had the best time. I can't even believe it's already been an hour.
I know talk about this forever. I know. Thank you so much for having me on.
We'll just have to keep having each other on our
Yeah.
podcast because we just have the best time. It's too much fun. This was incredible. And I know that the women listening will be able to take what you gave them today and run with it. So thank you for sharing all your wisdom and just all your magic because you're so talented.
Oh, thank you so much. So are you.
Oh, I love you. All right. Thank you for listening, and we'll see you next time on Power Talk. Wait, before you go, look below in the show notes for a free gift just for you. And if you're looking to manifest your dream life, I have science backed tools where all you have to do is plug in your earphones and press play to rewire your subconscious mind so that you bring in what you are wanting to manifest into your life. If you truly want something from a heart centered place, it is meant for you to have. The only thing getting in the way is your limiting beliefs. We manifest 95% from our subconscious mind. So go ahead, rewire that subconscious mind and start bringing what you want into your life. It really is that simple. Stop making it more complicated than it needs to be. Okay? Thank you so much for listening to Power Talk. Don't forget to click follow show so that you get first access.